fine with me. He fine with me.
Robert's Rules requires a 2/3 vote. I mean, it's really, so 5 out of 8, that's .625. 2 divided by 3 is .66. I mean, I've never had this question before. If we need to hit the .66, then it would fail.
Thank you.
In which case you don't have an approved agenda.
Okay. Then we need to get a motion on the floor to recess until the next call school board meeting in August. Can we
I'll
do?
make that motion. Or can we get an agenda on the floor to amend the agenda and then vote to approve that with 2/3 vote?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend, as chair, you have the authority to call a recess at any time. I'd
Yes, sir.
recommend a short 5-minute recess so we can talk through options now that you do not have an approved agenda.
Yes, sir. Call for recess, 5 minutes.
So would the board convene into the meeting room?
No.
Mr. Noble.
Do we have any additional chairs? That's what they asked for.
How you doing, Mr. Dick? God is good. Yeah, all the time. All the time. God is good.
Yeah, look at this.
Somebody was either buying or rented or something. These other boys, everything I'm throwing at the same girl, they've been on this board. I don't remember you, but I remember. Trying to get that thing done in Lane. But in fact, they took it off. The agenda one night, wasn't even let us put it on. They took it. Like I say, when I go to these baseball things and see our children, they whipping people from all over the country, so we must be doing a pretty good job of educating them. I know the test scores, if we get out of Raleigh, don't always show that, but when you start putting big competition against them, apparently we do pretty good. They hold their own and do better in a lot of cases. So we must be doing something right somewhere, it's just not being measured correctly.
Now, what we're doing, we're getting 1/25 of our kids. You know, like the schools, 75% of our kids are not doing
Might be right there, I can't argue with that. Those are our best ones, it's our best ones going against some of the best. Our best ones are as good or better than anybody else's.
and probably have a better home. I'm
But if
just
they'll figure out how to get us some money out of it, I'll vote on the head. I said, we need some money for the school system.
we said the rush teachers down there. Me and you sitting right on your school.
We don't get to do anything about it tonight. Coalitions. And what I wanted wasn't about me either.
What you think of the world? It ain't good to me because I ain't saying that.
Current agenda.
Yes, I would like to amend the current agenda. Do you want my recommendation for the amendment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I recommend, or I would like to propose that we omit everything from the meeting with the exception of 5.1 as it relates to the discussion pertaining to Plainview and East Arcadia school properties. And that was the intent of the special call board meeting. So with that being said, Chairman, I would like to request that we omit 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, closed session,
So there is a motion on the floor to amend the night's agenda by removing 5.2, 5.3, 5.4 in the closed session. I got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor by signifying by raising your right hand. All opposed. So that takes us back to the original motion.
Motion to approve the original consent agenda, or the agenda.
I got a motion on the floor and I have a second.
And board members, for clarity, you don't need to have a new motion in a second. So the motion to amend failed. You're just back at the original.
Back to the original motion of adopting tonight's original agenda. That's correct. So I have a motion, I got a second. All those in favor by signifying by raising your right hand.
do we not have discussion?
Yeah, we can have some more if you like.
Okay. All right. So just want to be sure that I make it clear that according to board policy 2335, it reads, policy code 2335, advance delivery of meeting material at least 3 working days prior to each regular or special board meeting. The superintendent will provide the following material to each board member: the proposed agenda, minutes of previous meetings which have not been approved, and any supporting information or materials which should assist the board members to become informed. So that policy was not followed by way of information not being received within 3 working days, and also minutes of the previous meeting which have not been approved. Again, just to reiterate, there was a motion that was presented, seconded, and passed by the board to host an emergency or special call board meeting to discuss Plainview and East Arcadia school properties. That was the intent of this meeting.
All those in favor by adopting tonight's agenda, by signifying by raising your right hand. All those opposed. We got 5-3.
I would like to, Chairman, if I could. Speak.
Sure.
All right, I would like to make the motion that we omit closed session from tonight's agenda.
I'm
Counsel.
sorry, board members, did the motion to approve the agenda pass?
Yes.
I thought they said it
Did-
didn't pass. It didn't pass. Somebody said,
Passed 5-3.
You don't have to have a 2/3 vote, only on a call to question, sir.
okay. It's very
That's right.
smart.
The
That
motion
was
to
good.
call the
That was
question
good. I'm gonna give that
failed.
to you. That was good.
So board members, I believe you're now on item 5.1.
5.1, so action item 5.1, Plainview, East Arcadia Properties, Dr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Chairman, Secretary, and board members. As requested by the board, action item 5.1, Plainview and East Arcadia Properties, motion was tabled at the last meeting to be brought back for discussion. And so I know the board council has shared some information regarding disposal of property. We've heard a couple of different folks that have shared that. Those information is in board docs for you. And so at this point, I think we'd be open to what the pleasure of the board would be concerning the two properties for Plainview and East Arcadia.
We've had a lot of discussion about this matter. Just want to see what the pleasure of the board is. Upset bid. Do we want to push it back to the county? Let's see if we could get some support there or other avenues that we could to look at. Just want to know what the pleasure of the board is on this item.
Chairman, if you could just be a little clearer in what you're asking, what your request is.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion. Are we going to vote to upset bid? Would we want to consider pushing it back to the county commissioners to see if we could get them some buy-in, as possibly some support there with that, or other avenues that may be existing that to support what we're trying to do here as a board.
May I?
Sure.
I think this is putting the cart before the horse, because what we were intended to do was to collect all the information and then make a decision once we have that. And I don't think that we have the information that we need to make that decision.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a couple options out there. Do we want to vote on something tonight? Do we want to table it?
I make a
To-
motion to table 5.1.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
I got a table, a motion, and a second. Any discussion? We would table it to August, our next scheduled board meeting.
If
Mr.
we're
Edwards.
open for discussion right now,
Yes, sir.
Chairman, I would like to, all the options, what all do we have, Dr. Atkinson, far as, and the attorney yourself, far as upset bids, the lease agreements? I've read some of the stuff on how that works, having to go to county organizations. I mean, have we even talked to local realtors and stuff to, see what, we don't even have a value of this school.
We, and I'll yield to council regarding the statutory requirements. At our last meeting, we had started soliciting some pricing just to see what an appraisal would be. And we'd only heard back from one at that point. Obviously, we've held off on any further action to kind of see the direction the board would like to go. We'll yield to Attorney Weber concerning the statutory things that are required in terms of options for the board, the lease length requirements, the sale and how that would have to go, or obviously, the county in the first go-around has done their first right of refusal. And so that kind of puts us back. Doesn't mean that the county, I guess, could not, if they were interested at some point, to do that. But I'll yield to council to kind of talk through those statutory requirements. Everyone has a clear understanding of what we can do and also what organizations or groups would actually qualify for what the statutory language would say.
With that, would it be normal to do a second offer to the county commissioners, or?
Would it be normal?
It's an
Not-
option.
Not in my experience. I
But
mean,
not
are you
normal.
prohibited from doing that? No. Just in
come
terms of
back
like the
to
board's
us.
options, I
Come on,
think
man.
Dr. Atkinson shared, and in the materials that are posted online, you have the property disposal options chart. That's a kind of helpful resource from the UNC School of Government. They have a separate procedures chart that talks about the procedures for each option. You know, those resources are designed for local government in general, right? So like cities, counties, towns. The main difference for school districts, and I mean, even within those, there are some, and I think it says it in the materials, it's kind of helpful, which ones are only for the city or only for like a county. But the primary limitation for school districts when it comes to disposing of any property, whether it's personal property or real property, comes from the North Carolina Constitution, which requires that, as interpreted by the courts, 2 court cases, one from I think the 1940s, requires that when a school system disposes of public school property, again, whether it's real property or personal property, that the system receive fair market value unless it will continue to be used for public school purposes. So that would apply to, you know, old tablets, right, laptops, as well as to school buildings, other, you know, real property like land. You know, the process for districts, and I think you've already done step 1, which is to declare the property surplus, and then to offer it to the county. You know, from there, if the county declines, options include one of the competitive processes under the statute. The most commonly used is the upset bid process, but there's also options for sealed bids or an auction. And again, that would just be open to anyone. Even with the upset bid process, that requires, you know, someone to make an initial offer, and then there's a period of time during which the offer is publicized for, you know, upset bids for someone to come in if they want to bid more, and there are certain requirements around that. Leasing, so leasing could be an option. There's statutory authority for the school system to lease property to other units of government for $1. That's not the only option. I mean, districts can lease property to non-governmental units. The main thing to keep in mind, and this would apply to, again, any unit of government, is the total term of the lease cannot exceed 10 years. So that's cumulative, right? So you can't have a 11-year lease. You also can't have 11 one-year leases that add up to, you know, more than 10. Anything over 10 is considered the same as a sale. So all the requirements that would apply to a sale of real property would apply to a lease of real property. The board could enter into discussions with other units of government. I mean, one of the other restrictions, and this would apply to any unit of government, again, whether it's a school system or a county or a city or a town, is, you know, other than competitive bids, there's only 2 circumstances in which the government unit can enter into direct negotiations for a private sale. One is specific to properties that are of certain significant historical value, when there is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is specifically the preservation of historical properties. The other, which I think the board discussed at the last meeting, is around disposal or sale to other units of government. So that could be a county, so it could be the county going to the county and saying, hey, we know you said no, but are you interested in purchasing the property? It could be a city, it could be a town, anything that fits within the definition of a government unit. Again, just the key restriction when it comes to public schools is the requirement when you are selling property to receive fair market value unless the property will continue to be used for public school purposes.
Thank you.
Council, just a couple of questions in regards to that, just so that I'm able to understand it thoroughly in the way that you explained it. I'm just going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to use, for example, East Arcadia School, and I also use Plainview School. With East Arcadia School, if the town of East Arcadia, which is deemed to be, based on what you read and what you shared with us, a governmental unit, if they opt to purchase East Arcadia School, they could do so without doing this at fair market value?
It would depend on whether it will continue to be used for public school purposes.
For public school
Meaning,
purposes?
the court cases, the one, essentially as a school, where the school retains a right to, there's a case from the 40s where the county, I think, purchased property, turned it into a stadium. There's some nuances to that case, but the school system had essentially a right of first refusal to use it for their own athletics, those types of circumstances. Or, for example, a charter school, right? If a charter school wanted to buy it, or a community college, or some other education entity that's a unit of government to use it as a school, that would meet the requirements too.
Okay. And so you said public school, correct? It's not just a school, so it can't be a private school. It has to be a public school.
Correct.
Okay. So with that in mind, if it could be a public school, does that have to be immediate use, or could that be the intentional use? If it is sold to the town of East Arcadia, would they be required to operate a public school on day one? Or could it be sold to them for less than fair market value with the intent of a public school being at that facility?
It would depend on the details. It's just,
So that is an option.
I don't know. I can't say yes, I can't say no.
Okay, so we'll move to the second option. Whenever you talked about governmental units being able to lease the property, and we're aware that it cannot exceed a 10-year term. So if that is possible, then the town of East Arcadia, because it doesn't decide or doesn't dictate how it would be used, it just says that a governmental entity may be able to enter a lease contract with the district for $1 per year. So is that still?
And I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question. Is it whether the public school purpose applies to a lease
Right.
of less than 10 years?
Right. Yes, that'll be fine. If you answer that, I think that'll be helpful.
I'll answer it this way. Yes, the school system could lease property for other than a public school purpose,
Okay,
so long as we don't exceed the 10-year mark.
10-year mark. Okay, got you. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. Where'd you get your information from?
The general statutes,
Yes.
Case law,
Share it with me, please.
the cases, you want the names? I can, they're in the memo that's posted online and that I've shared with the board as well. The relevant statutes are in general statutes, chapter 160A, 274 is the one that we've discussed most. But in chapter 160A, that's where you have various disposal options that apply to units of government, including counties, cities, and local boards of education. Their general statute 168-266, that's the statute I referenced regarding property sold to a nonprofit corporation whose purposes include the preservation or conservation of real or personal properties of architectural, archaeological, artistic, cultural, historical, natural, or scenic significance. Even in those circumstances, the sale must be for fair market value. The two applicable court cases are Boney versus Board of Trustees. That is a case from 1948. There is another case, Benvenue Parent-Teacher Association versus Nash County Board of Education. That's a 1969 court case. There's guidance from the UNC School of Government, including the disposal options charts that are included in the agenda, the memo that our office has shared that's also included, I think, in the public agenda, correct? The Tharrington Smith BCS letter. Disposal of school system property includes an excerpt from a book by David Lawrence, Local Government Property Transactions in North Carolina. Our office has consulted with the UNC School of Government on these questions. We get these questions all the time.
I already have the 168, that's 274 general statute. And I look over here and it's talking about the transfer of property, school property. We don't want it transferred to us. We want it deeded to us the way it was at Bladen Community. I mean, all dollar or whatever, I mean, because it doesn't say anything here specifically about,
Mr.
fair
Rhoda,
market
pull your
value.
mic, Mr. Rhoda, pull your mic down, please, sir. Pull your
It doesn't
mic
say
down.
anything about fair market value in here.
That's correct. The fair market value comes from the court cases. So the way the Supreme Court has interpreted the Constitution
But we're not
as
in
applied
court.
to public school districts is essentially if the property will not be used for a public school purpose, then the school district must get fair market value.
But I'm talking about the general statute here. It says, it doesn't say anything about fair market value. And I don't understand how some other, towns and can get schools, and organizations get schools and not pay fair market value, and these guys gotta pay fair market value. I don't understand that.
I can't speak to what other towns or cities or school districts are doing.
And did the law change? When did the law change? Did you study those
Did the law
cases?
change? These cases are from the 1940s.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
If I could,
Mr. Thomas,
all right. So council, just a couple of other questions. Based on your experience or based on your expertise, is it required that we sell each property as a whole? Or is there anything that prohibits us from splitting or reassigning the property, meaning the acreage? If one property is 9 acres, could we sell the school and the property, and the school with 2 acres or 3 acres for a price, and then the remaining acres sell those separately?
I would think yes. I mean, the
So-
board is the property owner. If you want to sell a parcel, like a small portion of your property, then you could
Okay.
portion it and put, 2 acres and describe the acres up for sale, or 10 acres, or a building.
Right. Now, with the acreage, would the same general statute apply for that as well? Meaning, it could be sold to a governmental unit for the usage of a school?
That's
A
right.
public
The-
school.
The limitations apply to sale of any and all property,
Okay,
whether it's
gotcha. So
personal
that-
property, real property, if it's a building, if it's vacant, unimproved land. My favorite example is I had a district that the district bought a dog to be a therapy dog for kids to read to in school. And the district owned the dog. And we had to explain, because a staff member wanted to adopt the dog when it was in its teen years, its golden years. We had to tell them, you will have to take formal action in a meeting to declare the dog surplus and then get fair market value for the dog. I mean, it applies to everything.
Okay. I think that answered the question. I just want to be sure that I'm clear, so that way I don't have to ask again later. And so what I'm hearing, just to be sure that I processed it correctly, what I'm hearing is that it applies to any real property or any type of property that the school district owns. With that in mind, again, we could sell parcels of the land to governmental units at less than fair market value for the usage or the intent that it be used for a public school.
Yes, the board can dispose of property for less than fair market value if the property will continue to be used for a public school purpose. I will say that responding to hypotheticals is, I will just be honest with you, challenging without the details, right? I mean, what is or is not a public school purpose, it's going to depend. I mean, clearly, using something as a school is a public school purpose. The further you get away from that, the less likely it is to meet the constitutional requirements. If there is an entity with a proposal, a specific proposal, whether it's for a lease, you know, whether it's a city wants to lease it, or a town, or the county, or someone wants to buy it, I can certainly work with staff to analyze the proposal, come back to the board if it's something the board wants to entertain. But the details really do matter.
I think you open up a lot of different avenues, and hearing your response, again, we still know that they could lease a township or a governmental unit can actually lease the property, and that, of course, would be not fair market rent. Fair market rent is actually going to be at $1 per year. The next thing with that is, we understand about parcels and dividing the property and how we can dispose of it that way. With Plainview School, there was a resolution that the superintendent prepared and submitted to the Plainview School Alumni Association. I can't remember the title correctly, but somewhere along in that. And I think somewhere towards the end, I can't remember, it's been a while since I've read that, but it said that we would support them introducing legislation that they be able to receive the property for less than fair market value. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's somewhere, it may not be verbatim, but it is somewhere along those lines. I didn't see, it said the full board, that we were fully on board with them acquiring the property at no cost. I don't remember, and it may have been in there, I just can't remember, and you correct me, don't remember there being a expiration on that. And so when we pledge our allegiance to them to get the building, that still should be honored for them to get the building at no cost, because that has not expired. I don't think it had an expiration on that. So now we're moving to, we sent a letter, we gave them a letter saying that we support them having the building or acquiring the building at no cost, and now we're in a position that we're entertaining selling the property and talking about bid processes.
So we're back to, we got a motion and a second to table to the next August board meeting. We've had discussion. All those in favor by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. On to action 5.2, Ms. Ann Brown, Dr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Chairman Singletary and board members. Action item 5.2 is our loan maintenance contract for 26 and 27. That was placed out for bids, and those were received. You'll notice in board docs you do have a copy of the matrix as well as the draft contract. This is our form contract that our board council has us to use with vendors.
Audience, if I could get some order, please, thank you.
We did receive 10 bids on the RFP, and the lowest responsive complete bid with all the required workers' comp insurance and liability is Breaking Grounds at an annual cost of $83,160. So we're requesting approval tonight of the loan maintenance services contract with Breaking Grounds for the 26-27 school year.
Can I get a motion on the floor to approve the approval of the grass cutting contract for lawn care services? I got it so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor by signifying by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We got 2 opposed. 3.
How many years?
3 opposed. So you got 5-3. I mean, we can raise hands if you, let's approve it. Raise your right hand. Approved.
Approved.
5-2. Lawn maintenance. Opposed. Okay.
What was that?
6-2.
I can't see out of my peripheral. I can't see anybody hand raised.
Six two. All right. We'll move on to action item 5.3, student code of conduct. Miss Ann Brown.
Board Chair and board members, I'm asking that our student code of conduct for the 2026-27 school year be approved.
Can I get a motion on the floor to approve action item 5.3, student code of conduct 2026-27?
Motion to approve 5.3, student code of conduct.
Got a motion to approve. I got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor by raising your right hand. All opposed. Moving on to action item 5.4, SRO recommendations for 2026-27. Ms. Ann Brown and Dr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Chairman, Secretary, and board members. As relates to our SROs, I know that has been a sensitive matter throughout the year. We've still operated this year without a contract with the Sheriff's Department. There's been some back and forth on that. As you all have been made aware, in terms of the cost that have been associated with SROs, we receive around $316,000 from the county of Bladen. There's around $264,000 from state for grant funding, and the rest has to come somewhere else. Mr. Nolan, I think we've exceeded, what, 1.1 million this year? So there's around 600,000 that has not been covered through existing funding. Presently, there are, the prior contract was approved, allowed for 12 SROs. Since that time, we have obviously had some school closure. Bladen Community College has been covered by security at the college with the early college there. They have been sharing an officer between Bladenboro Middle and Bladenboro Primary for proximity. And so when we look at the back over the past invoices, we're trying to look at ways in which we can try to obviously maintain safety, but also look at budget. Originally, the district had not requested 2 SROs at the high schools. They have been assigned that way as of now. Again, just a reminder that, we don't do those assignments here. And, I've already shared about the closure and with the early college. And so, obviously not having a contract, there's a couple things that we would have to do in terms of trying to bring that cost down. First of all, I want to highlight the $316,000 that comes from the county of Bladen, because it is not, because it is allocated to the school system. It makes it subject to shared cost with charter. So in essence, we don't really receive the $316,000. It comes in and it's cost allocated to charter. And so actually, the actual realized amount that would go toward the bill is actually less. One part of our request that we'd like to ask you all to assist us with in making this request to the county commissioner's office and the sheriff's office is that, one, they would consider making that allocation of $316,000 straight to the sheriff's office, because what's really happening is it's being sent here. We write a check back to Bladen County. It just sounds like it would be easier to direct those dollars for SROs straight from the county's budget to the sheriff's department and be earmarked for SROs. That would ensure that the district received its full $316,000. It would not be subject to a cost share. Second part of that too is looking at the number of officers based on number of schools. And in thinking about having one per school, still maintaining that shared position that's across from Bladenboro Primary and Bladenboro Middle, that will bring that down to 9 SROs. Here again, we do not have a contract going into the new year. And so there's a prior contract shared the number 12. We've had some change, obviously. There was county raises last year, I think, that took their cost up, obviously, for employment costs. That takes our bill up for that as well. And so those costs were not realized in there. And so what we're asking you all to consider tonight is, and I know we're going to need to look at trying to get some kind of agreement in the new year. I'm concerned that our state funding, which is grant, but it is in legislation, you do have to produce an agreement between the school system and the sheriff's office. So we've kind of we've been on continuation, basically what we had previously. But I'm sure the ask is going to be, let's see your new, whether that's MOU or contract, whichever direction that goes. From a fiscal standpoint, and I'll let Mr. Nolan add any additional information here, it would help us bring that number back closer to what we realize with the grant funding, and if the direct allocation goes to the sheriff's office, that would obviously drop that that cost out for the district. In essence, what's almost happening, we're close, I wouldn't say exactly amount, pretty much what we get from the county and the grant essentially is doubled, and so that funding has to come from somewhere else, and so that's impacting obviously the budget as a whole. We know the value of safety, and we don't want to diminish that. We believe that we'd have obviously the coverage. In terms of, I know in times past, they've had a supervising officer that may or may not have been necessarily assigned to a school. I'm just going back, it's changed so much over time. And again, it depends on how they are assigned. But I think it will be worth us at least making the request to consider, obviously, number of officers that are going to sufficiently cover our schools as we need, and we believe that safety is important. But also, the direct funding would ensure that the intended amount that the county commissioners are setting aside, if it's directly directed toward the sheriff's office with the note that that it is for SROs, then we would receive that entire amount. Now we've actually receiving less than that because of the cost share. And so if it's the board's pleasure, you would authorize us to make this request to the county for these modifications, and then hopefully be able to come to an actual agreement. I know that the board in past, we talked about some specific requirements and things that we feel like we need to have in place in terms of times, addressing overtime, that has fallen on the back of the school system in the past, and that's also taken the bill up. And so, obviously there's some expectations in terms of what is needed on each school campus. And, I know there's been some concern about that. And I know that will be formalized in an MOU, and that will be the intent of that. But we believe at least trying to get the conversation on number of officers assigned. Now, we also know that we had a period of time where we're having folks filling in. I think we're not at that point now. I think they have folks assigned. But folks were kind of filling in. That also was difficult in terms of tracking for cost measures. At one point, I know we had asked about billing coming monthly. It's presently coming quarterly. And I think on a monthly basis, it would help us reconcile to make sure that, in terms of if someone was out, that we're getting properly invoiced. Finance got several invoices with multiple officers' names in the past, and so, knowing that schedule, having that there, we want to make sure we have safe schools, but also that we're, being mindful of that financial impact. Of course, with the state budget, not sure what's going to happen in terms of what the county is doing for employees. If there's any kind of raise on the county side, that's going to take that cost up even more. And so we're just asking you all now if you want to consider allowing us to approach the county and sheriff's office regarding these two specific things, the number of officers and the specific funding being directed to the sheriff's office on behalf of the school system.
You know,
I make the motion. Oh. Well,
Dr. Atkinson,
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion, Mr. Davis?
I thought we had to read I didn't read it, but it's
Well-
fine.
Go ahead with the motion.
I make a motion to recommend, to the recommendation of the administration regarding our SROs and to authorize the superintendent to provide official notice to the county officials.
We have a motion on the floor. 5.4, recommending change to SRO allocation and funding. I have a second. Any discussion? Mr. Davis?
Dr. Atkinson, my question is, because you covered quite a bit there what you said, my question is two things. First of all, are we requesting that there be 2 officers at each high school?
No, sir, we had not actually originally requested that at all. They've actually assigned them that way presently.
Okay,
And so there's been some shared positions across some schools now. What we were hoping to do, the one share, if we, in terms of looking at, you've got the 2 Bladenboro schools that are essentially across the street. We were looking at East Bladen and West Bladen. You've got officers assigned at Dublin, rapid response there. Elizabethtown to East Bladen, rapid response. And so we had never originally asked for 2, but they've been assigned that way.
Right.
This would get us back to having at least an officer in every building, with the exception of the Bladenboro share.
it's been that way for years, that we've had 2 officers at each high school because of the number of students you have there and staff. And to make sure that you don't leave one officer there trying to handle everything. I personally believe that should stay as it is, for the safety of the students and the safety of the staff. If something happens at the school, shooting, somebody comes in, you only got 1 officer. And that officer most likely is gonna be the one to call the cavalry, which means help coming, because the personnel in the school are gonna be too scared to call. They're gonna be trying to save their life or get in a place that's safe and trying to worry about getting the kids safe. The officers got to handle the threat. You need 2 officers at each high school. Now, I know that they recommended breaking it down to 9 officers instead of 12, is what you guys were considering. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will not compromise the safety of our kids for no reason whatsoever. I will never compromise the safety of our kids based on $1. I won't do that. Because it's happened in Cumberland County, it's happened in Wake County, and several other counties. And matter of fact, it's already happened in Bladen County one time. So it can happen again. And it's not always the threat come from the outside in. Sometimes the threat is directly inside the building. I won't speak too much on some things that have occurred because I don't want to scare the people in the public. But you know as well as I do, there's been some instances that required specific officers to be in certain places. It has. So we can never compromise the safety of our kids based on $1. We gotta find a way to make it work. We never got 12 officers that we were always promised. We never got them. And I can tell you what's happening. He's pulling from this squad and that squad and this squad and that squad to fill the slot. So the people inside the school, our staff members, don't know who they're gonna see from day to day. They need a person they can depend on to be there, that they have built a relationship with, that they have the cell phone number of, that they know will take care of what needs to be done. And they actually know the day-to-day operations of that school. Because there's things that East does that West don't do, and vice versa. And Ms. Brown can attest to that. She always had somebody that she could pick up the phone and use her cell phone and say, I need you over here. I have a situation over here. You understand what I'm saying? That's my concern. And I feel like if we do anything other than that, we're not taking care of our kids. And when the situation takes place, we're gonna be the one at fault. That ain't gonna work.
All right, we got a motion on the floor and a second and discussion. All those in favor by approving action item 5.4, raise your right hand. All opposed. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed. 6-2, motion carries. At this time, we'll entertain a motion for the board to convene in a closed session to prevent the disclosure of confidential information pursuant to G period S period 143-318-11-156, GS 115C 319, and consult with the board attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to GS 143-318-11A3. I got a motion. I got a second. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor by raising your right hand. All opposed. Motion carried. We're now in closed session. All opposed? Motion carries. I can entertain a motion to adjourn at this time. I got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor by signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.